Welcome to CBS Sports HQ. Jenny Dell here, ready to guide you through this Friday afternoon in sports. And I'm going to start with what I believe to be the game of the weekend. The Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, facing off in the divisional round of the AFC playoffs. You're going to find it this Sunday on CBS. And they are going to be dealing with some frigid weather in New York. For more on that, here's our friends in Buffalo.
Hello from Buffalo. I'm meteorologist Mike Doyle. We're in for a fun but a cold game on Sunday. Kickoff time 6:30 and a kickoff temperature pretty close to 17 degrees. Most of the day will be on the cloudier side, but there is a chance for a few lake effect snow showers very late by the second half of the game. The wind chill by kickoff time, we're talking right around 9 degrees or so, and by the end of the game, that wind chill down to about 5 degrees just around Buffalo, even into Orchard Park. So it will be very cold throughout the game. Winds will be late, but about 5 to 10 mile per hour wind can make it feel like those wind chills are in the single digits. And like I mentioned, most of our Sundays dry, but once you get into about the second half of the game, there's a chance we can see some light snow showers pass on through. Back to you.
He mentioned that lake effect snow in place, estimating from 4 to 8 inches of snowfall in most affected areas. Travel expected to be difficult. We look at the coldest home games in playoff history, and you can see the list right there. 17 degrees. It's going to be that wind chill that's going to get you. I know that Amanda Garrow, who's nice and cozy and warm on the desk, is feeling good. We're going to send all of our love, though, to Tracy Wilson, who will be roaming the sidelines on Sunday. Freezing cold out there.
Yeah, but she always looks good while she does it. She has a good coat. Let's welcome in two of our experts here getting us ready for this game. Wilson, John Breech. Ryan, you're actually in the New York area, I believe. I was called out yesterday for not knowing where one of our colleagues lived. You are in the New York area. You're about 3 hours from Buffalo. What do you think about this weather coming in on Sunday?
It's January. I live in Syracuse. Shout out to Central New York. Buffalo is Western New York. If you're in upstate, you have to differentiate those two. Here's the thing, like 17, and we heard the weather report, as long as there's no wind, it'll be fine. And by the way, it's going to be in the teens in the Virginia area, in the Maryland area this weekend as well. So it doesn't matter where this game is going to be played. It's going to be cold. The snow will be, it'll favor the team that has the ball, and both these teams like to run the ball a lot. So I don't know if it's going to be a factor necessarily, as long as it's not windy. And if it were windy, that actually might favor the Ravens a little more than the Bills, because we know that Josh Allen likes to use his arm perhaps a little bit more than Lamar. I'm not worried about the weather. I don't think the Ravens are. Lamar, for what it's worth, is 3-1 in games where it's less than 32 degrees. So I don't think that's going to be a factor unless the wind starts to pick up.
Yeah, Lamar, if you saw the latest episode of Hard Knocks, Jim Harbaugh actually praising the way Lamar Jackson has been throwing in cold weather. This could be his coldest game, though. John, just overall looking at the game, we'll get into maybe who has the edge here when it comes to the weather, but how much do you think it is going to affect the game?
Well, I think when you look at what these two teams try to do and really how these quarterbacks have both played in cold weather, because that's the whole storyline here is Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. Ryan just mentioned Lamar Jackson 3-1. Josh Allen's 9-1, so he doesn't really lose in cold weather. So I don't think we're going to see a huge difference from what these teams would do if the weather was 45 degrees out. And for the Bills, you're probably a little disappointed that your home field advantage doesn't really end up being advantage, because if they were playing a team from California or Florida or Texas, you feel really good about the fact that that team would have to come in and play in this cold weather. But the Ravens are used to it. They just played in the 30-degree weather in the wild card round, so I don't think the weather's really going to give either team an advantage in this game.
Ryan, do you think one team has an advantage or is better prepared to deal with cold weather? I mean, because looking at those stats, I mean, quarterbacks, you know, kind of the same, team outcomes kind of the same. I think the one thing is, you know, the Ravens do have Derrick Henry.
Absolutely. And last week's game, the playoff game against the Steelers, it was pretty cold in Baltimore, and obviously it was cold in Buffalo when they lined up last week as well against Denver. I think this is going to be an incredibly even-matched team on both sides of the roster, as you talk about, Amanda, but I don't think the weather's going to play a part. Even if it starts to snow, and even if the snow gets heavy at times, you saw that there's a possible lake effect situation where 4 to 8 inches could fall, and lake effect means 4 to 8 inches could fall in an hour. So that can make it for a fun game to watch for the fans, maybe less so for the players. But I don't think, unless they're playing this game, I don't know, on the moon or in a situation where there's lava around them, I don't know what the differentiation would be between these two teams, because they're so evenly matched. So I don't think the snow or the cold weather, like I mentioned, as long as there's no wind, is going to affect how this outcome plays itself out.
Well, Wilson, I'm not sure the NFLPA would sign off on a game being played with lava around. But as for the cold conditions here, I do think one team has one small advantage, and it's the fact that the Ravens have Derrick Henry. I think he is absolutely the X factor here. Wilson, have you ever tried to tackle a snowplow truck? Because that's what the Bills are doing here. You can't practice tackling someone like Derrick Henry. We know that the Bills brought in a backup quarterback to kind of simulate Lamar Jackson in practice. Well, you can't do that with Derrick Henry. You can't bring someone to simulate him because no one has his size and speed. And the colder the weather it gets, the more difficult it is to tackle him. So I think Derrick Henry is going to turn into a human bulldozer on Sunday. And I think he is absolutely the X factor in this game due to the weather.
He is going to be like a snowplow or a Zamboni. They are going up and down the sideline. So maybe we'll give the slight edge to the Ravens because they will likely turn to that run game and Derrick Henry here. Let's get a pick from both of you. Ravens favored by 1.5 at the Bills. No, Bills fans aren't pleased about that line. Their total is 51 and a hook. Ryan, I checked the weather. John, I think you're dealing with some rain today, but closer to 60 degrees. Ryan, you're right around 34, so you get first pick here.
Yeah, no, it was warm today when I walked the old dog. Still on the ground, a couple feet, if we're being honest. But in terms of the pick, and by the way, I can't believe Breech didn't mention the special teams as being the X factor with Derrick Henry. But because he said Derrick Henry, I'm going with the Ravens because Breech makes a fantastic point. By the fourth quarter, if it's 17 degrees out there and there's 2 inches of snow on the ground, you don't want to be trying to tackle Derrick Henry. I like what Lamar brings. I think he is the MVP. And this team in total, I think, is a little bit better than the Bills, even on the road. So I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, we saw these two teams play earlier this season. The Ravens won 35-10. I think the Ravens have gotten better since then. Obviously, the Bills have too, but I'm not sure it's enough to make up 25 points. And Ryan, you mentioned the special teams. I'll throw out this fun fact real quick. No opposing kicker has ever hit a field goal 50 yards or longer in Buffalo in the playoffs. So if it does come down to a long kick, that will make things interesting with Justin Tucker. But I am on Ryan's train here, and I am also taking the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday.
Okay, both going with the Ravens there. Sorry about your Bills. Sorry to my friend Jason, who's a big Bills fan. Guys, we'll talk to you soon. Actually, hang on. We're going to talk to you in just a minute. By the way, this game, yes, Jenny mentioned it, Ravens at Bills Sunday. Interesting start time. We like that it's a little bit earlier for those of us living on the East Coast, 6:30 Eastern. You can check it out on CBS or stream it on Paramount+.
All week long, we've been talking about how these teams can move on from the divisional round and make the Super Bowl. Well, today, we're going the opposite way.
Okay.
How are they going to lose it?
Ooh.
Yeah, get nasty next.